here we are, we're 10 years in, we mentioned this. You know, why are people still talking about xAPI in this way? We still get a ton of questions. You know, as recently as within the last month, while we were prepping for this presentation, there was a developer posted a question on Stack Overflow, and it was a simple question. It just asked what it means that a website supported xAPI. And that's a great question because a lot of people have gone out there and said, yes, I have xAPI, I have some amount of xAPI. So what does it really mean to be using xAPI? And so that's what we want people to consider. We don't want people to just put it up there on their website. This is a term that, you know, maybe they've checked a box, maybe they've added just the barest amount of support. And so they're going to add it to their website. But let's look at what it means to truly be a part of an application and what you should consider when going fully into the xAPI world. So let's start with, why does xAPI exist at all? You know, what was it that caused it to be created? So when I think about this, really what was going on in 2012 was two major things. There was this notion of shifting architectures. And when I talk about shifting architectures, I'm not talking about the buildings, of course, I'm talking about systems. There was a movement, particularly on the web, where we were moving into really embracing the concept of a client-server architecture. In other words, so there's a client out there, that's where content was often being played, and it was connecting to a server, and then you end up with RESTful APIs. You end up with what are now very common web services. Everybody talks about APIs. Back then, API was a new thing for the web world and how we developed those applications. Along with that, it became very clear that we could move beyond the browser. So with that better architecture, where we have an API to talk to that can capture data, that can reliably give us back that data, we no longer are tied to the browser. We start seeing mobile devices come online, between phones and tablets, Internet of Things, all of these different devices come online. And so that allows us to go into a place where we have device portability, whether that is using something that isn't using a browser at all, maybe your thermostat, versus also, maybe you have a phone application, you have a phone, even a browser on a phone, that phone may go offline, all of those types of architectural things that we had finally gotten expert enough at this web thing to be able to do those new kind of concepts. And all of that, I think, also led to this second big point, which is data portability. It was no longer enough to just get your completion from your SCORM course for this year. Employers industry-wide wanted to start seeing data across multiple years. If you're 5 years into your career, we don't need to just see last year's SCORM completion. We need to see all of the data that's leading to where you are as an employee, maybe what your career path looks like. The complexity, we start to see, more regular users, in other words, not just developers, who can start handling these types of systems, this type of data. The complexity that we start seeing in data is really growing. And that data complexity leads to us needing dedicated systems. It's no longer enough to have just one system that is trying to interpret and understand all of the data. We start looking at analytics platforms, maybe machine learning. We're even starting to get into AI worlds. So the data just becomes so much more complex. We need a new way to capture it. And the other thing that people started to start thinking about when they get to this kind of more mature concept is, we want to look at data that's not just from your training. It's no longer good enough that we can see which true false question you got right. We want to start pairing that data from training along with your actual on-the-job performance data. So we can look and we can make a tie-in between, yes, you did some training, but more importantly, it affected how you did your work. It improved your overall capability, maybe your efficiency, all of those things. And then the other thing, it became user-centered. Users wanted to start paying attention to their own data. And so, with the ability to move data around, move data from systems The data portability becomes important to the end user themselves. Maybe when they move on in career or they switch roles in a company or in an industry, there's some amount of data that they want to take with them that allows them to say, yes, I've gone through this. This is where I am in my career path, what my performance level looks like.